Alright, so this is actually pretty simple. The engine is very lightweight. Okay. It's only it's only 3.2 megabytes. Okay. So all you do is you get the cast vote record from the government website that was certified, okay, and we're going to use 2020 here because I already set up some of the indices over here in the preparation sheet for this. But here we are, we're starting with a totally blank cast vote record, okay. And let's just download this. This is El Paso's 2020 general election. That for some reason was updated in April 6th of 2024. Anyway, so all we do is we open this up, okay, straight from the download, and I'm just going to paste these things where it says paste them, okay. So the only thing we need is the cast vote record number. Is this on manual? Make sure you're on manual. I'll make sure it's on manual when you download the file. But anyway, so you go to Formulas, Excel, Calculation Options, and you put in manual. You don't want anything calculating until you have everything in. Okay? So you're going to take the CVR number. You're going to including the header, you're going to drop it right there, okay? Then you go to the precinct list, which is here. You put this here. Make sure it matches, same number of rows. Okay, now you're going to get your ones and zeros. This is a pretty large thing. You're going to take this box here, the very first column. This one is Biden. You're going to go all the way to the bottom. Okay? Every single one. Right click and use copy. Don't hit Control C. Okay? Now you're going to put that right here. Paste on this little orange box. We might actually have to hit... I don't know, if I hit Control C, will it take something that large? It should. Let's hope for the best. I'm going to hit Control C. Okay. Here we go. Here's our ones and zeros. Okay, the last thing we need is the column headers. You can technically not have these, but then you won't know like what anything is. So you take rows 2, 3, and 4 in a Colorado CVR. Copy. And just put it right here. Okay. We can now hit calculate. Alright, so now what's going to happen here depends on what you put in the preparation sheet. Okay. So you have to figure out, this is the only part you have to do manually. You have to look at, see these column numbers here? You have to find the candidates and races that you want to look at here. Okay? So you see this thing says CVR columns helper. Whatever you put in, it will be transposed vertically. So you can see, okay, well, column 1 of the cast vote record was voted for Biden. Okay? Column 2 is Trump. 3 is Blankenship. Then you'll see here United States Senator. The Democrat Hickenlooper is column 26. And Cory Gardner is column 27. So we took the column numbers and put them into row numbers so it's easier for you to just look at it. Okay? The reason this matters is because this is the manual input stage, okay? So we want to have, let's say, the president and the Senate are the races we want to look at. We also want to look at the House of Representatives, the state legislature races, and the state Senate races for whichever state Senate races were active that year. Okay, this you have to manually type in. I can't help you with that. Okay. You put the names of the candidates here. Again, you're going to be manually typing these in. Okay. Then you have to go find the column number. Okay. So if Trump is on column 2 in the cast vote record, then you're going to put column 2. Okay. Let's say you have Cory Gardner. And then if you look through the list, you'll find Cory Gardner here on 27. Okay? So you have to put these parts in yourself. I can't help you with this part. Then you have your ballot propositions. So repeal Gallagher, Amendment B. Okay? The no vote and the yes vote on repeal Gallagher are columns 114 and 113. So you'll see that down here. There's no, column 114, and there is yes. Okay? You have to put these in as well. As for the optional description, that's up to you. And put the race here. Okay? And if you look at the actual cast vote record, if we go over to columns 115 and 113, we'll see it right here. 113 is a yes vote on Amendment B, which is repeal Gallagher. And 114 is against repeal of Gallagher. Okay? Now for the United States House races. So you have to find every congressional district. United States congressional district. In El Paso, there's only one in the 2020 election. Okay? It's District 5. So you go find them, and you find the Republican column and the Democrat column, and you put them here. So 35 and 36, okay. Jillian Freeland is a Democrat, and Doug Lamborn is a Republican. What that will do is it will actually extract that data out here, where it says United States House. So let's say you have more than one district, which you'll see in a moment. And when you get to the United States House, it creates a single column for Republicans in column H and Democrats in column M, regardless of which district they're actually from. Okay, so it just says, did you vote for the Democrat or Republican? So you'll see that here with the state senators. So the Republicans are in columns 40 and 43, Liston and Gardner. Then you have the Democrats are in columns 41 and 44, McCallion and Johnson. Okay? So for the state Senate races, you'll see that District 10 and 12 for the Republicans are here, and District 10 and 12 for the Democrats are here. Then what it does is it combines that into one state Senate column, and it just adds all the row for the Republicans. And likewise, it adds the row for the Democrats, okay? So then it doesn't matter which state Senate district it is. It's just Republican or Democrat, okay? Finally, you have the state legislatures. There is 8 districts from 14 to 21 in El Paso County in the year 2020. So you got to find all the Republican columns from District 14 to 21. Then you got to find all the Democrat columns from District 14 to 21. Okay? If you want to put the names here, that's up to you. I like to put the names there. but you have to do that yourself. And once again, you'll see all of the Republican state districts here from 14 to 21 are now appearing in this array. Okay? And then all of the Democrats are over here from District 14 to 21. Then we combine that into one column for the Republicans and the Democrats. In column I, Republican legislature, Democrat legislature. And all that is the sum of all the Republican votes per row, because you can only vote in one district per ballot. Okay, so you can only get a 1 or a 0 even when you take the sum. And then you have here the sum of the Democrat row for that ballot. Okay, bop. And then once you have that done, again, you get your ballot propositions. You should have done that by now. And now you have the Republican partisan columns, the Democrat partisan columns. Brown it's an undervote or a third party vote. So it says if Trump is 0 and Biden is 0, then this is a 1. We don't care if they voted for Joe Jorgensen or Blankenship, or if they didn't vote at all. It's all the same to us, because it's the same to the people that rigged these elections. Okay? So Trump, Biden, other, which means third party or undervote. So it says other you. Okay? Then we have the 4 ballot propositions of our choice. This is the no vote. The same 4 ballot propositions. This is the yes vote. Anything else has to be an undervote for a ballot proposition. So again, this is the undervotes. Okay? And that's that. Now let's go over to what's called precinct supersets. Okay? So this takes that number, okay, from the cast vote record that you copy and paste it in. And it's going to sort them first by precinct name. Then it's going to extract it's going to put a custom number. So in this case, there's 341 precincts. Okay. From 1 to 341. That's like a local index number for the engine. That's going to extract the House district, which is the first number of a precinct in Colorado. The state Senate district, which is the next 2 digits of the precinct's name, and the state legislature, which is the next 2 digits after that. Okay, I don't know what the rest of the numbers mean. I don't care. Okay, and then it will just say, how many are cast in this precinct, and then it will sort them back again by the cast vote record number. Okay. And then it counts how many there are total, which is 341. And then it once again will sort them here for direct extraction into a smaller sheet called precinct stats, which is just as long as numbers as there are precincts. Okay. And it'll just give you the laydown. Okay. So from precincts 1 to 341, you get their name, their House district, their Senate district, and their state legislative district number. It tells you how many was cast, regardless of how the ballot was cast. It could be a totally blank ballot for all we care. And then you have sort choice. So you can sort these by the precinct name if you're looking for the name. The custom index is the sort that this pops out in. The U.S. House district, the state Senate, and the state legislative. Okay? Regardless of how you choose to sort it, the secondary sort will always be the total number of ballots cast in that precinct. So if we're investigating, let's say, state legislative district 14, right? Maybe you want to look at the top 8 precincts in that legislative district when it comes to ballots cast. You're not stuck to that. You can do, Trump's total share of the vote or Joe Jorgensen's share of the vote. I don't care how you sort them in the end if you want to change that. But that's the default setting for people. Okay? All right, so we did this. This is where the main calculations happen. Okay. And this is the engine. The main engine. So let's go. So you're going to have we have 5 different partisan races that we chose: President, Senate, House of Representatives, State Legislature, State Senate. Okay, we have our 4 propositions: repeal Gallagher, charitable gaming, casinos, and the tobacco tax, Amendment B, C, 77EE. Okay, you're going to put the year of the election. This is 2020. Put the county here, El Paso. Put the state here. That's Colorado. And then what we're going to do, and this will automatically update all the graph titles. You're going to choose which Democrat and Republican race you want. So let's put Trump there, which is Partisan Operator 1. So this is cell A26. You're saying, I want the Democrat and the Republican to be from the presidential choice on the ballot. So that's Trump versus Biden. And we want to look at Proposition B, the repeal of Gallagher. So you put in Proposition Operator in B26 1, okay, because the proposition list says that repeal Gallagher is number 1. Superset operator. So this means precincts, legislative districts, Senate districts, congressional districts, or the whole damn county, okay? You got a list right here, okay? So if you put in 1, you're going to be looking at every individual precinct. If you put in 2, it will be the United States House district number. If you look at number 3, it's the state Senate number. Number 4 is the state legislative number. Number 5 is the whole county. It's the superset of all precincts. Okay. Number 1, the precinct, that's called an improper superset in mathematics. It means when a superset that is equal to its own subset. The precinct is the lowest possible subset. Okay. So let's do the legislative districts. Okay. Then we're going to pop that out here. And it's going to choose the top 8 legislative districts with ballots cast, which in this case is all 8 because there's only 8. And what we see here is that because we chose Trump, Trump's total share of the vote in purple keeps increasing over time. In every single legislative district in perfect parallel lockstep motion. The beige line is the opposition rate to repeal Gallagher. So it says, even though everybody is voting more and more for Trump over time, they go from 50 to 70% in this district, or they go from 20 to 40% in this district. For some reason, the way in which people are voting on the repeal of Gallagher just is not changing. Crazy, right? Then you go look at Republicans, and they come down, okay, from 70 to 50%. So to put that into perspective, what that's saying, okay, is that they went from more than 2 to 1 against the repeal of Gallagher at 70% down to 50%, which is nearly 1 to 1, okay? That's a pretty crazy shift. Meanwhile, Democrats don't change at all on the repeal of Gallagher. Now here you can go through each district one at a time. Okay. So you see it says choose local number. The local number tells you the state legislative number. So local number 1 means state legislative district 19. Local number 2 is 14, etc. Okay. So this is the 19th district. Okay. And now this will be district 14, district 15, district 20, district 18, district 16, District 21, and finally District 17. Okay? So, what does this graph tell you? Okay? If we take a look at it. So this graph tells us the solid colors are the cumulative percentages, right? So purple is Trump's share of the vote over time. Brown is the total opposed rate. Red is the Trump voters that are opposed to it. Blue is the Biden voters opposed to it. Okay. The light colors are the immediate share of the batch. Okay. So that's it's not dependent on the cumulative percentage or how the ballots were voted prior to it. So it tells you the range, like 15,000 ballot window is the batch. That window changes based on the total number of ballots cast in that precinct, okay? So here this is 1,900 ballots. This is 1,600 ballots window. 1,500 ballot running window. Okay? And again, the light purple is Trump's immediate share of the vote. Light red is the immediate Trump opposition rate to repeal Gallagher. The yellow beige line is the immediate share of the vote that's opposed to repeal of Gallagher. And blue is the immediate Democrat or Biden opposition to the repeal of Gallagher. Okay, so this engine, it just lets you, with the click of a button, really, once you put your cast vote record in and you set up your columns and stuff, your column numbers for the different partisan races and the different ballot propositions, it really just becomes a plug and play. Okay? So like I said, just to go over what we have here. Cells A26, B26, C26, you put the partisan race, so maybe I want the state legislature instead. Okay? So now it's going to be the Democrat and Republican state legislative ballots. Okay? In every precinct or whatever. And yeah, it's still pretty much the same pattern. Okay? If anything, it's even cleaner than the presidential race. Okay? So, what are some of the other things that are in here? Okay, if you go to Superset Info, you there's a coal number operator in cell G13. So if you're doing it by the precinct, you probably don't want to see precincts with less than 400 votes because they're too unstable. Okay? That's the only number that you're allowed to touch here. Then, it will show you a few things. It will graph the... I can make these a little larger. Actually, no, because there could be a lot of precincts. But, it graphs the Trump share of the vote in purple, Republican opposition in red, Democrat opposition in blue, total opposed in beige. Okay? Which things that actually pop out on your graph, so if you want to get a little more advanced. Okay? So by default, it takes whatever you chose, like precincts or state legislatures, it takes the ones with the most ballot cast and it graphs 8 of them in the calculator. If you want to change that, you can in the precinct stats page. And in these pink cells from T2 to T9, you can enter any precincts you want. Okay? And then you have to hit Enable Custom, and you have to change that to a 1. Make sure you're in manual calculation when you do this. Okay? So that's Formulas, calculation manual. You put your new set of precincts, and you put enable custom from 0 to 1. So long as you are choosing to analyze the individual precincts, that means the supersets operator is equal to 1 for the precinct, it will override the initial precinct choices, okay? And it'll put the ones that you want here. Then you can go back to your calculator sheet and you'll see the 8 precincts you chose. This graph here, so you understand what time is. This graph, for any particular precinct or legislative district, so right now we're on legislative district 15. Okay, let's go to maybe one that has a different clock speed. Let's go to 1. So this graphs the percentage of ballots that were processed for the county overall on each ballot number against the percentage of the legislative district's ballots that have been processed. So we expect this to be pretty much at a 45-degree angle. The ideal line is in purple. And all that means is that, you know, by the time 50% of all the ballots have been counted in the county, roughly 50% of the ballots have been counted for that legislative district. Okay? The area under that yellow line to the horizontal axis is given here. So this case it says 50.96% of the unit square. And then the clock speed is given by the logarithm of this number minus the logarithm of 1 minus that number, 100% minus it, and base 2. And we call that the clock speed. Clock speeds tend to be about 0. Okay? Which means it's neutral. That's a good thing. Okay? Now, if we did something like precincts, we might get something a little different because precincts they can come in a little erratically compared because they have a smaller. So you can see here that this precinct number 310 has a very high Trump share of about 80% of the vote, and its ballots came in kind of slow compared to the county. Okay. So I want to see if I can fix this. There we go. So here, the area under the yellow line, it's 44% of the unit square, so the tau value is negative 3.2. So that's a relatively slow precinct. Okay. Now for this ratio called orange, the demonic ratio, you have to understand this is where things get a little intense, and you can stop the video here if you want. You don't have to know anything more than what I've showed you. You see this diagram of 4 quadrants with, you know, the dark red in the northwest is the Republican no vote on a ballot proposition. The dark blue in the northeast is the Democrat no vote. The light red in the southeast is the Republican yes vote. And the light blue in the southwest is the Democrat yes vote. So, if you look at the north side of the diagram versus the south side, well, that's just the no vote, regardless of party, against the yes vote, regardless of party. Okay? We understand what that is. We can put words to it. And that ratio is called omega in green in the middle of the chart. Now, if we look at the diagonals, the red diagonals versus the blue diagonal, that's just the Democrat vote versus the Republican vote. We have a ratio for that. It's called alpha, and it's purple. And that's why we use purple for Trump's total share of the vote. Okay? And we use red for the Republican no vote because the red diagonal, right, the percentage of Republicans that voted no comes from S over S plus U. Republican no over Republican no plus Republican yes. Okay? That's why we use the color red. For blue, well, it's the blue diagonal. It's T over T plus V, or Democrat no over Democrat no plus Democrat yes. That's why we have a blue line in the graph for Democrat no. Okay? But now I want you to ask yourself a question. Okay, well, north versus south is no versus yes. Diagonal versus diagonal is Republican versus Democrat. What is the east side of the diagram versus the west side? If you're struggling to find words for it, you're not alone. Nobody knows what it's called. So, if you took the Republican no vote and added it to the Democrat yes vote, what would you call that? Who knows? Okay? I call it the nameless sum.
Yes.
Now, if you took the Democrat no vote and you added it to the Republican yes vote, what would you call it? Again, who knows? So I call it the formless sum. So the west side is the nameless sum, and the east side is the formless sum. Now, what is the ratio of west to east? What is the ratio of namelessness to formlessness? Well, that would be demonic, and that's why we call it the demonic ratio. So why does this ratio matter? Because in every election, both fair and unfair, this ratio exists. Republican no plus Democrat yes divided by Democrat no plus Republican yes. And he who controls this orange ratio across the legislative districts, together with the purple ratio, which is Trump's total share, and the beige ratio, which is the total share of the no vote, controls the entire election. Because Republican opposition, be it to abortion or to the repeal of Gallagher, follows what's called the fourth and eighth laws. Quite simply, it says M equals lambda plus omega minus alpha over 2 alpha. So in red, Republican opposition to a ballot proposal is equal to the demonic ratio plus the north to south ratio, that's yes to no to yes, minus the Biden to Trump ratio over 2 times the Trump to Biden ratio. That's an algebraic identity. Democrat opposition is equal to the east to west demonic ratio plus the north to south ratio minus the Trump to Biden ratio over 2 times the Biden to Trump ratio. So the moment somebody says, I'm going to rig the election by declaring Trump's total share of the vote in purple, the total share of the no vote in beige, and the demonic ratio in orange, because the ratios of north to south, diagonal to diagonal, and east to west have been predetermined by an algorithm, Democrat and Republican opposition is now forced to be exactly what it is. It's no longer free. And this is why you got these constantly decreasing or increasing ratios, okay, for Democrats and Republicans, because somebody is screwing with the vote totals in ways that are incomprehensible to ordinary mortals, okay? So if you control purple, and you control beige, and you control orange, then you compel red and blue with the 4th and 8th laws. The last feature of this engine, again, is right here. Talk about that briefly for a moment. So you'll see here that when you put in your partisan choice and your proposition choice, so we have the state legislatures and the repeal of Gallagher, the first thing that happens is 9 sets pop out. Republican no, Republican yes, Republican undervote, Democrat no, Democrat yes, Democrat undervote, other yes, other no, other undervote. We then choose 4 of these 9 sets to map to the variables S, T, U, and V in our quadrants here. So you can see S is set to Republican no. It's the only entry here. And T is set to Democrat no. U is set to Republican yes. And V is set to Democrat yes. Doesn't have to be this way. Okay? So long as you only have a single entry per row. Okay? And you don't have repeat entries elsewhere. Okay? We could say, well, I want to combine the Republican no vote with the Republican undervote on the proposition with the third party no vote and the third party undervote on the ballot proposition. And that all now goes into S. So it's Republican no, but it also includes Republican undervote on the proposition, third party no, and third party undervote. Then for Democrat no, maybe we add Democrat undervote. Okay? And for Republican yes, we could add other yes. And now I've exhausted every possible combination. I have every row is now occupied. So I'm mapping all 9 sets to these quadrants. Okay, so we're doing Republican and other, no or undervote on the proposition in S. We're doing Democrat no and Democrat undervote in T. We're doing Republican yes and other yes in U. and we're only doing Democrat yes and V. Now let's go ahead and graph it. Okay? And you get a much, much different story than when you're only looking at just purely Democrat versus Republican. Okay? When you combine that, it says the combined Republican and third party vote starts at 50% at the start of the election and skyrockets. This is El Paso County to 90% of the ballots cast. That's their data, not mine. Anyway, the default setting for this engine is Republican no, Democrat no, Democrat yes, Republican yes, and Democrat yes. So if you want to fool around with the other options, that's up to you. But this is the default option and setting. Republican no for S, Democrat no for T, Republican yes for U, Democrat yes for V, to match this diagram. Okay? That's all I have to say. That's how the whole engine works. Okay? If you're not good at math, I would leave this STUV part alone and just leave it on its default setting. Okay? So all you really have to do to get the basic engine working is, you drop that precinct data, that cast vote record number, and the ones and zeros in your column headers. Then you have the column helper list, which puts them vertically instead of horizontally for you to look at. You go to your preparation sheet, you put in those columns specific to your cast vote record. It's the only part I can't help you with. You have to do that yourself. The United States House district races here, state Senate races here, state legislative districts here. Then after that, everything is good to go. Okay? You put in your partisan operator. So that could be president, Senate, whatever. Your proposition operator, which could be Gallagher, gaming, casinos, or tobacco. And your superset operator, which could be the precinct, the House, state, legislature, or county number. If you're not in Colorado, I don't know how the House, Senate, and state legislature numbers work. So you might be stuck with the entire county. Or you might be stuck with the precincts only. So maybe I'll figure out something for Nevada and other counties. By the way, here's number 5. This is the entire county. Okay, this is what we'll close with. Again, you get to see the entire county here, right? So Republicans are going from, 40% to 70% of the ballots counted in the entire county. They're falling from 64% against Gallagher down to 50%. So they're going from a 2-to-1 ratio to a 1-to-1 ratio over the course of the election. And that's really it. The demonic ratio is the same at all moments in time. So, they just preset that to whatever the fuck they want. Because once you control purple and once you control beige, and then you set the demonic ratio, red and blue are forced by the 4th and 8th laws. Right? It's an algebraic identity that can't be escaped from. Alright, that's all I have to say, guys. I'm going to leave this default setting on on precincts. and on partisan operator 1. And then, oh, time. I should probably tell you about that last operator. So you have superset time and county time. So the default option is 1. If you do that, the x-axis is the percentage of ballots counted, okay, in the entire county against what's ever happening for the precinct or the state legislative district. If you put 0, it uses the precinct's own clock or the state legislative district's own clock. So now the x-axis is the percentage of ballots counted for that district. Okay? And these actually have much smoother appearances, believe it or not. So watch what happens when we change the time just in these cumulatives. Okay? So in county time, you know, you do that, but you do it in their own time, and you get much smoother lines there because you no longer have chains of ballots that belong to other districts that are interrupting it. Okay. So the moving shares are very nice when it comes to that. Okay. But the default is county time because that just means the ballot number for the entire county, normalized from 0 to 1. Alright, so this is the version I'll be giving y'all. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Now I'm going to put this on manual. And you know what to do. Alright, very good. If you guys have any questions, contact me.